For all of our wonderful crew who braved the elements to bring you this one, for Gary Danielson, Tracy Wilson, I'm Vern Lundquist.
Welcome to M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, where in just a few hours, we will witness the 115th edition of the greatest rivalry in sports, the Army-Navy game. Nothing compares to the pageantry that surrounds this game. And over the next hour and a half, we are proud to bring you a very special part of it as the Brigade of Midshipmen and the Corps of Cadets march onto this very field. CBS Sports Network is honored to bring you the Army-Navy March On, presented by USAA. Together as one, with pride and passion, they defend the nation we love. But on this day, allies become adversaries, with inter-service bragging rights on the line for the 115th time. It's a rivalry that has no rival, played solely for the love of the game. Throw out the records, it's Army-Navy, the purest rivalry in sports.
Welcome to Baltimore, Maryland. The Corps of Cadets, the Brigade of Midshipmen, mustering just over by Camden Yards. Great sports cities in all of America. And what a scene. No Ravens, no Orioles today. It's Army and it's Navy. And this is Army-Navy March On, presented to you by USAA. The 115th meeting, a rivalry that's been taking place since the 1890s. Brent Stover alongside three-time SEC Coach of the Year, Houston Nutt, former All-American tight end, won 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots. It's Christian Fourier. Guys, I don't know about you, but this is my favorite day of the sports year. Really fun to be a part of. For me, it's year number 3 in a row.
This is the second time for me, Brent. I love it. I love the atmosphere. You think about our men and women, the service they give to the nation. You think of words like duty, honor, country, compassion, character. I mean, nothing like it. And these two teams will play hard, Christian.
Yeah, you said it right there. You're talking about bragging rights, right? This is going to be something they're going to sit there and hold and cherish for the next 365 days. And I remember watching this game as a kid, as a young adult, and now as a man. And I tell you what, it is special for me because you can feel the tension, you can feel the animosity right now, and it is ready to go. I'm very excited about this game.
It's about toughness on both sides. Speaking of, you will notice, Coach, the only one of the three of us without an overcoat on this
no sleeves.
Day.
No sleeves for Coach.
Sleeves.
Old school.
This is good football weather.
Let's check in with Dana Jacobson and Randy Cross inside the stadium, guys.
I don't know what it says about me. I'm the most dressed of all of us with the hat and
You're
everything.
smart.
I'm warm. That's what I know. Randy, the guys mentioned how many they had been to Army-Navy games. This is my second, your sixth. It's about so much more. We're in the stadium. People are filing in. There's nothing like this atmosphere.
No, there isn't. It's for life. It really is.
Yeah.
And for the Naval Academy, when you see things around Navy, it's go Navy. Always followed by beat Army.
Right.
I was with a group last night from Army of all ages, great age range, a lot of graduates. They're positive this is their year. It's got nothing to do with 12 in a row losing. This is the year. This is the game. They finally get Navy.
Maybe it'll be the lucky 13 for Army or the lucky 13 for Navy. I'm not certain which. It is the 5th meeting here in Baltimore, though, and the series is even, at least when it's here. Year-round, they talk about one team, one fight, but they are adversaries today. More from M&T Bank Stadium, live in Baltimore after this. A look ahead at the game as we take you up to the March On.
Game day. This happens once a year.
I don't care if you make 1 play or 50. Be a playmaker out there.
Out here on that 100-yard field, it's smash mouth football.
Army on 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's important to us. This is who we represent.
A Navy!
Yeah!
Never give up! Never give up! Go Navy! Be Army!
of the greatness that is our military. We come out here and we celebrate not our differences, but our similarities.
Inside College Football Army-Navy Tailgate on CBS Sports Network is being brought to you by USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of current and former military members and their families.
And for the first time, we get to witness the march on outside the stadium as the Brigade of Midshipmen entering M&T Bank Stadium, getting set for Army-Navy for the 115th time. Navy comes in 6-5. They've made a bowl game. They'll play in San Diego at the Poinsettia Bowl on December 23rd against San Diego State. Army trying to get the corner turned at 4-7. I think overall it's been kind of a disappointment, to be honest, for the Mids this year, though Keenan Reynolds, another really solid season.
When you think about Navy, you think about Keenan Reynolds. The quarterback is outstanding. Knows how to execute this option to perfection. Knows when to hand it. Reads the tackle perfectly. Knows when to keep it. Can run the football. How about this? He leads all FBS quarterbacks with 20 rushing touchdowns. Over 1,000 yards rushing. He's thrown for 5 touchdown passes, but this is what he wants to do, guys. He wants to run that football. He does it with precision.
On the other side, Angel Santiago's done a good job as well, through the air, on the ground for Army. But it's their first-year head coach that's really the headline, especially because it's his first opportunity, and Army has lost 12 straight. Jeff Monken has a chance to turn the tide a little bit today.
Yeah, so Army wanted to change the tide and kind of change the culture. So what did they do? They went out and got a Navy man. They got Jeff Monken, who spent 6 years with his buddy Ken Niumatalola over there with Navy. He comes back, and what does he do right away? Changes the culture, changes the attitude. The first thing Jeff Monken noticed, guys, when he got to Army was he realized there was no signs anywhere in the facility that referenced this game. No signs about beating Navy. So what's the first thing he did? He went out there, got a bunch of signs that said beat Navy. He means it.
And to add to that point, CBS Sports Network had Army on TV in October, early October. Their next game, he didn't worry about. Final interview, he says, beat Navy.
Jeff Monken, he's a disciple, you alluded to it. He's kind of followed Paul Johnson around, kind of a Padawan learner, if you will, if you're a Star Wars fan. But the bottom line, when he was a head coach for 4 years at Georgia Southern, first 3 years they were phenomenal. Made the semifinals of the SCS playoffs 3 years in a row. So now he's got the nation's #5 rushing offense at 306. Coach, you alluded to the Navy Midshipmen, #1 in the country in that category at 358 per game. It's Army-Navy March On, presented by USAA, a couple of hours away from kickoff here in Baltimore. Plenty more to come.
How does Army know it's Army-Navy game day?
Every year.
One of the many spirit spots this week that make it so much fun as we lead you up to the Army-Navy game, the 115th Army-Navy game, and more specifically in just a few minutes, the Brigade of Midshipmen will march onto this very field. Randy and I are honored to be joined now by the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral John Greener. Thanks so much for being with us. What a day. I mean, you've done this so many times. Why is it so special?
Well, it's a culmination of a long season. It is kind of our bowl game. Navy's going to a bowl game this year. That's nice.
Yeah.
That bowl game is second to this game. It's all about beating Army. It's the end of a period of sports for gentlemen and ladies who will now go out, well, for gentlemen in this case, who will now go out and lead sailors and will lead soldiers. So it's a shift, a total shift in career. There will now be different kind of professionals.
And Admiral, you were just overseas here recently visiting some of the Navy personnel over there, as we say, and are they looking forward, just like the people in this stadium, to this?
You know, they are, Randy. It's interesting. This used to be about people that went to the school, you know, all the alumni and all this kind of business. both schools, their services have adopted the teams. We do spirit spots now. I do it with my senior enlisted leader, and so does Ray Odierno. You know, it's with. So yeah, they've adopted it. It represents the service now.
You guys have some great hashtags, is what yours was this year, and a lot of spirit that goes with it. I'm curious. This may sound silly, but if you're on a sub, how do you keep up with the game? How do you know what's going on?
Well, that's a good question, Dana. But if you can find the right time, you can put an antenna up, so you'll pick it up on Armed Forces Radio. The BBC picks it up.
Right.
So trust me, if there's a way to get a chance to put an antenna up, no matter where you are, all the ships at sea will be listening.
I love it.
With all your responsibilities, how important is it to you to be able to get out there and actually touch the individual service people out there that are underneath you?
Well, you know, Randy, it's kind of everything. I'm like sort of a CEO in an odd way, although it's a better job because I've got all these great kids to go out there and look in their eye and see, how are you? What do you need? What can I do for you? And are the things that we're doing reaching you? So how do we do that? In a time in Washington when we say things are so uncertain, I want to tell you, Dana, I'll tell you, Randy, they're not uncertain out there. They know what they're doing. They're focused kids.
And especially, I was going to say, the kids now, these are the 9/11 generation kids. Have you seen a different type of calling to service from them?
I have. People asked me earlier, gee, what's it mean coming to here? I mean, I come out here, I look at the youth of America and what they're willing to do. My generation wasn't like that. I mean, my generation wasn't as committed, as willing to say, I want something bigger than myself. But whatever it is I do, I want it to be relevant. I want people to enable me to do it. I don't want coddled. They are amazing kids in that regard. So this country's in good shape. We just need to take care of them, enable them to do their job, and we'll be fine.
And people probably aren't reminded enough that, this is an all volunteer armed forces, and
yes.
They're giving and they're risking everything, and they're not being drafted. They're volunteering.
Yes, Randy. I'm surprised. I asked them, so how did you make up your mind? And I'm looking for, one day I went down there and a recruiter got me. There's some really thoughtful kids out here. There are a lot of college graduates. We have about 10% of our enlisted force are college graduates, and it's growing. And that was sort of unheard of. It used to be the thing you jump into, thing you just jump into, but it's not that anymore. These kids have a plan.
You mentioned General Odiero before, and I'm curious because I did see your Facebook post. Is there sort of any friendly wager that goes on between the two of you? We'll see governors bet when it's a Super Bowl or something like that. Do you guys put anything on the line?
We have in the past. I won't reveal it if it's okay with you. It typically is, Dana.
That's on a need-to-know basis.
Randy did tell me I wasn't going to get you to tell me.
That's exactly right. You got it.
Well, Admiral, we certainly appreciate you being with us. We'll be talking with General Odiero in just a little bit. And right now, it is the time we've all been waiting for the march on. The voice of the Navy Brigade, Alexander Vogel, the class of 2015.
Founded in 1914, the Naval Academy Drum and Bugle Corps has a long and proud tradition in support of the Brigade of Midshipmen and Navy athletics. The Corps is led on the field by Corps Commander, Midshipman Lieutenant Andrea Howard of Norcross, Georgia. The Naval Academy Band is under the direction of Lieutenant Diane Nichols. The drum major is Chief Musician Todd Nix. The Brigade of Midshipmen is commanded by Midshipman Captain Christopher Diorio of Yorktown, Virginia. First Regiment is commanded by Midshipman Commander Jacob Marburger of Columbus, Ohio. First Battalion is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Commander Catherine McVarish of Braintree, Massachusetts. First Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Christian Holloman of Havelock, North Carolina. Second Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Mark Blankenship Jr. of Marysville, Washington. Third Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Evan Nickel of Atlanta, Georgia. Midshipman Lieutenant Ryan Bresnick of Bradford, Pennsylvania. Fifth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Kelly Freer of Shelton, Connecticut. Second Battalion is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Chris Szymanski of Houston, Texas. Sixth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Logan Burchett of Bell Buckle, Tennessee. Seventh Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Connor O'Neill of Annapolis, Maryland. Eighth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Timothy Sabian of Mendon, Massachusetts. Ninth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Frederick McDonald of Oceanside, California. Tenth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Kurt Payne of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Third Battalion is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Commander Michael Lemonick of Wynwood, Pennsylvania. 11th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Charles Jordan of Lilburn, Georgia. Twelfth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Timothy Howarth II of Plainsboro, New Jersey.
Right turn.
13th Company is commanded by Midshipman Second Class Torrey Spees of Preston, Maryland. Fourteenth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Brandon Tran of Montebello, California. Fifteenth Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Benton Boyd of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Passing before you now is the color guard with Midshipman Second Class Maldonado carrying our national ensign. Midshipman Second Class Rose carrying the Brigade of Midshipmen flag. Midshipman Third Class Stern with the battle colors of the United States Marine Corps. And Midshipman Second Class Pang with the battle colors of the United States Navy. The riflemen are Midshipman Second Class Bonani and Midshipman Third Class Davera. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The 2nd Regiment is commanded by Midshipman Commander Cricket Masters of Joplin, Missouri. 4th Battalion is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Commander Jess Fellows of Vienna, Virginia. 16th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Evelyn Rios of Fort Myers, Florida. 17th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Timothy Waterman of Ashburn, Virginia. 18th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Chris Hine of Virginia Beach, Virginia. 19th Company, The Color Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Ian Eversman of Stafford, Virginia. The midshipmen of the Color Company have distinguished themselves as the most proficient in the brigade in areas of academics, military professionalism, and naval skill. The 20th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Christopher Lee of Encinitas, California. The 5th Battalion is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Commander Taylor Compton of Grand Haven, Michigan. 21st Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant David Tisler of Aiken, South Carolina. 22nd Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Zach Nelson of Minneapolis, Minnesota. 23rd Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Ryan Eilerman of Joppa, Maryland. The 24th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Jonathan LaDuce of Elmira, New York. 25th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Heather Bowie of San Diego, California. Sixth Battalion is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Commander Kevin Lee of Gainesville, Virginia. The 26th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Matt Silberberg of Lake St. Louis, Missouri. The 27th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Jordan Snyder of Bel Air, Maryland. The 28th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Eric Bermudez of Topsfield, Massachusetts. The 29th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant John Hogan of Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Right turn.
30th Company is commanded by Midshipman Lieutenant Junior Grade Matthew Brook of Gaylordsville, Connecticut. The Naval Academy Pipes and Drums is led by Midshipman Lieutenant Junior Grade Megan Lewis of Pleasant Grove, Utah. The drum major is Midshipman 3rd Class Raj Patel of New York, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, the Brigade of Midshipmen.
An incredible spectacle again, the march on of the Brigade of Midshipmen. And as they begin the march off now, we are joined by Midshipman Second Class Zach Danley and Midshipman First Class Sarah Reynolds here with me. And Zach, you just said to me your favorite part is?
The march on, yes ma'am.
The march on and the shout at the end.
Yes ma'am.
So give me some idea for both of you. You've been out there and now you've been here. What is it like in that march on moment when you step onto the field?
Absolutely. I guess the coolest part of it is truly it's an opportunity to physically show your unity with the brigade, and that's just such a cool, unique opportunity. We have a lot of student sections and a lot of colleges have that, but to be able to have something like the march on to show it is really unique.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's a great way to show our pride, especially the cheer at the end. The Navy is always louder than the Army, and it's a great way for us to come together before we join the stands and we really cheer loud for Navy.
And I know for you, this is your senior year, so you leave after this. What is after this?
Well, I actually just got service selected as Navy pilot.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'll be traveling to Pensacola, Florida to begin my flight training after graduation. So I'm very excited.
And Zach, you still have another year left, and you have an absolutely fascinating major to me, cyber operations, and it's the first of its kind. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, ma'am. So really what we hope to look at in cyber operations is the human element that comes with technology. And I think that's so critical now because we look at even refrigerators are connected to the internet and thermostats.
We're all tweeting from here.
Absolutely, yes ma'am. And so what we're looking at is how can we make that experience not only better for the user, but how can we also make it safer?
So how did you make Army-Navy Week better using cyber operations this week?
Yes ma'am. Well, actually it was kind of funny. Me and my roommate even made an Army-Navy Spirit Spot. And so that's really a unique opportunity to get on through social media and really just to the connectiveness that technology offers is so unique.
Yeah.
And it's really a fun part of the game day experience.
Yeah, we've been watching the Spirit Spots, and even the ones that we haven't aired are phenomenal. I know they're online for people to watch. Sarah, for you, this is now your fourth year.
Yes.
Army-Navy Week. If you can give us a sense of what this week is like for you.
It's almost undescribable, especially for the plebes, our fourth class, our freshmen coming in. It's something that they've never experienced before. We do a lot of pride things, we do a lot of fun activities, especially since it's near the end of the school year, so you're blowing off steam, you're bonding with your classmates, bonding with your upperclassmen, and it's just something that until you experience it, it is undescribable. But when you are experiencing it, it's amazing, especially as a first class, a senior myself, 4 years of Army weeks. It's unbelievable.
You know, you have an interesting background because your father is Army.
Yes.
How did it go over in your household when you told him where you wanted to go to school?
Well, he wanted me to apply to West Point in the Naval Academy. I only applied to the Naval Academy. This is where I wanted to go, my first choice. I've gotten him enough Navy gear for his birthday and Christmases, though, that I think I've sold him to the Navy side today.
Just a little bit, maybe.
Just a little bit.
And Zach, you also have, I can't even list your family history because I can't remember it all, but I have to look here. So you applied to enter the Sons of the American Revolution because your family goes back that far with military service.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, 6 contiguous generations. So we've had a family member in every conflict since the American Revolution and even further back to the French-Indian War with my 6th great-grandfather, William Ross.
Did you learn this growing up and hear the family history and just know that you had a call to duty and a call to service?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. And I truly feel so blessed to grow up in this country that I knew I had a call to service even before the family history really became a part of it. But there's actually a wall in my father's hometown, Genoa, Nebraska, that has all of my family who have served. They each have a brick in it. And so it was an amazing ceremony I had to be able to carve my own brick into there whenever I got accepted into the academy.
And I was going to say, was it for you, was there any choice between the service academies, or you knew that it was the Naval Academy for you?
I knew, yes, ma'am. I'm very, very passionate about the cyber operations experience, and Navy is really blazing the trail with that, and I love to be able to get in on the cutting edge of this and hopefully provide as much as I can.
Sarah, I know in what I do, it's unique to be a woman, and I think still in the military, it is unique to be a woman. What are some of the challenges that you face just as a servicewoman instead of a serviceman so far?
Absolutely, and I think the opportunities are unique, but especially at the Naval Academy, we have about 20% women in the whole academy right now, and it's unique because you get to bond with the other women at the academy, but you also get to build lifelong relationships with the men and the women there, because these are the people who will be serving within the fleet. So experiencing different things and learning to adapt, but I've had the most wonderful time at the academy, and I've loved the challenges that I faced and really overcoming them and learning how to be a woman in the military. I think it's a special thing.
When we were talking with Admiral Greener earlier, I mentioned that you guys are the 9/11 generation to me and grew up in a very different time.
Has that shaped how you feel about serving your country at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it plays into joining the Naval Academy, joining any service academy. Unlike a normal college, we will be serving, I'll be serving in May. I'll start and I'll commission into the Navy. And I think it's a challenge and it's something you need to decide before you join the military. For me, it played a part in it, but the military is something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be a part of the military, so this gave me the perfect opportunity.
And usually when somebody's graduating college, you're leaving behind, it's a whole new world. Not that it won't be for you. You got to miss Army-Navy week, but you still get to be a part of it. So does it feel like while you're graduating, you're still staying a part of this fraternity?
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing about the Naval Academy is we have brothers and sisters through every single year that's graduated. You can enter the fleet and you'll have people who graduated 50 years before you or just 2 years before you, but you're all bonded through the experience, Army-Navy being one of them at the Academy. So I'm very excited to enter the fleet.
And Zach, I'm wondering how you're going to top this. You've had the March On. Now you've been here with us. What will next year's March On be like, having missed it sort of for a year?
Yes, ma'am. I think one more chance to beat Army and make it 14 will be plenty.
Is that it? Do you guys have any doubt at this point that you're going for 13 this year?
Absolutely not.
No, ma'am.
Go Navy.
I love the confidence. I know when we're speaking on the Army side in just a little bit, it will be the reverse, that it is over. We want to thank you for your time. Thank you for missing what was a special moment, but we hope it was special for you to be with us. Again, Midshipman Second Class Zach Danley with us, and Midshipman First Class Sarah Reynolds. Thank you. Congratulations on your soon graduation as well.
Thank you so much.
And I mentioned the Army side as the Brigade of Midshipmen marches off. We get you set for the March On, the Corps of Cadets. We are live at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. The Corps of Cadets, as mentioned, will be marching on shortly. General Odiero joins us next.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I don't know if you were counting. Let's hit 1,000. You want to be strong? You want to look like me? You want to look like that guy? You all right, little buddy?
Yeah, I'm in the Navy.
Pathetic. Look how this guy does PT. This is how I do PT. No burn. A little bit of burn. There's the burn. Puny Navy sidearm? Pathetic. Army sidearm. Nice ride, Navy guy.
Thanks, I got it on a loan.
Pathetic. This is what I drive. On game day, don't be like this guy. Go Army.
And the Army Corps of Cadets filing into M&T Bank Stadium, where in just a few minutes we will see the Army march on. Randy Cross and I back inside the stadium, joined by the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army. General Ray Odiero is with us. General, you've done this so many times. I can't imagine it ever gets old.
Never gets old. Exciting day, great atmosphere. And I was saying earlier, it just seems to be a different buzz this year. Really, a lot of excitement around it. It's pretty exciting.
We talked a lot earlier about the emotion of this game and how much it means to everybody involved and how much it means all over the world. And I was asked last week about my favorite moment of this rivalry, and it might have been 2 years ago when you were with Trent Steelman after the game, and he was crying on your shoulder. I mean, it was something you looked at, and to me, that really embodied how much it meant.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand how much is put into this and how much it means to them. And, you know, for us enduring this streak is difficult, and we were so close, and to have that fall away was so hard on him and the whole team. And I just felt it was necessary for him to know. I asked him, did you play the hardest you possibly could? He said, I did, sir. And I said, that's all that matters. I go, you know, things happen in life, but for us it's about resiliency. It's about coming back from defeat and things that don't go quite right, and he'll do that. He's a great young man, and I'm very proud of him, and I was proud of the effort they put in that day.
You mentioned the streak right now, Navy having won 12 straight, but I noticed on your Facebook page a very interesting post this week. Your Throwback Thursday post happened to be the first Army-Navy game that was played in Baltimore, 1924. Right. And what was the score that year, General?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I
12-0 Army.
There we go. I like it.
12-0 Army.
I like it.
Was that sort of that feeling of this is our year?
I think so. I got that little special feeling. You know, I also talked this week, actually, when I talked about the 1964 game 50 years ago. It was Raleigh Stitchway and Roger Staubach. And Navy was a heavy favorite. Raleigh Stitchway and the Army team beat Navy that year. So that was 50 years ago. So I'm trying to
harken back to that as well. So I think 4 might be a lucky number. I'm not sure. So
Eventually it comes around in that way. You know, you talk about giving your all and doing your best. And when the Army and Navy are on the field together, it is for at least one day not the one team. It is your adversaries out there. But you come together later. So how has football even brought you together as just service academies?
Well, I think first it's one day that, you know, there's that common sacrifice that you have. I mean, what's different about the academies is when you play football at an academy, it's not about you get extra privileges, you don't have to go to class. In fact, I would argue it's more difficult than your normal student because you do the same thing everybody else does, and yet you have long practices, you're tired, you're beat up, but you still have to do everything else everybody else is doing. So there's this common sacrifice that you have and this dedication that you have that is important. And I think both teams have that, and so they understand that. And then it translates so well when you come into the Army and have to lead men and women. It really translates really well. And so that's why, for me, I think these games are important. And it's important for people to understand that these are student-athlete leaders. They are just not football players.
Right.
And they play at a high level. They train hard, just like all other football players. And I think that's what makes it different.
When you travel around the world and you visit people, enlisted men and women under your command, I mean, this volunteer force, how much does this game mean to them? It's not just about the alumni. It's not about the ones that just went to the academies.
Well, I mean, you in fact, they just showed a Spirit video. That was from the 25th Infantry. Those were NCOs, not commissioned officers, who did that video. Those weren't officers. Those were not graduates of West Point. I mean, that means a lot to them. They're very proud of their Army. They're proud of what we stand for. They're proud of what we do every single day. And for them, they want to see their team do well because they're proud of them as well. They know that some of these men on this field are going to be their leaders in a year. And you know, they want them to be successful. And they know the toughness that it takes. And so for them, it means a lot, a lot.
You know, one of the men that will walk into this stadium, not as part of the March On, but after, is Mike Viti. Right. And a lot of people know his story, but for those who don't, he's literally trekked across the country, 7,100 kilometers. It has been a kilometer for each one of the servicemen and women that were killed in action during the global war on terror. What has that meant to you and to other members of the armed services in knowing what he has done?
Well, I mean, first of all, an Army football player, fullback, a very good Army football player, who also had a distinguished career in the Army and still understands what it means and the sacrifice that has gone on, and he's trying to represent that. And of course, he had a teammate that was killed. That you know, brings it home. You know, for us that have been involved in these wars, a lot of friends have been lost. A lot of friends have been injured, and we respect what they've sacrificed. And so he's showing that respect by what he's done. He's trying to bring attention to it, and it just shows the kind of person he is and the kind of leader he is.
And you look too, is a lot of discussion around this when you study what Mike Viti's doing. It goes back to the Gold Star families and the families who have lost loved ones in this effort.
It's been really important because for us, you know, we can't forget those families, the mothers, the fathers, the daughters, and their sacrifice of what they've given up, a young man or a young woman who raised their right hand to defend us. And they're proud of them, and we don't ever want anybody to forget their sacrifice and the sacrifice of the young men and women. And so the Gold Star program is so important because, and it's important for people to understand what that means when they see a Gold Star pin, that they had a loved one who was killed in action.
Yeah.
And gave their lives for their country. And for me, there's nothing more important than that.
You know, we see a lot of young people around here today, and I called them earlier this 9/11 generation. Have you seen a different call to service from them?
Well, first, this is what I always say to this is, these are great young men and women. I mean, I've got to be with them very close in combat, and I'm going to tell you, they're great young men and women. So yeah, they might be from a little bit different generation, they might be do different things, but they're dedicated and they're incredibly courageous, they're incredibly dedicated and professional, and I just love being around them. And so, you know, every generation is a little bit different, but they still have that internal drive and love of their country, and that's the most important thing.
Well, General, we certainly appreciate the time, and right now we want to send it up To our PA announcer, the voice of the Corps of Cadets, John Hensley Williams, class of 2015 for the Army Marching.
Good afternoon, Army fans, and welcome to the annual Army-Navy Football Classic. The Corps of Cadets from the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York, and members of the United States Army Cadet Command are beginning their traditional march-on, representing their show of force in support of the Army football team. Entering the stadium is the United States Military Academy Band under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Jim Keene, with the drum major, Sergeant Major Christopher D. Jones. The marches that will be played as the cadets march onto the field are the official West Point March, America Exultant, Benny Havens, Alma Mater March, Army Blue, Gladiator, and National Emblem. Leading the 4 regiments of the United States Corps of Cadets onto the field is the Brigade Commander, Cadet First Captain Austin Welch from Winnetka, Illinois. His staff consists of the Deputy Brigade Commander, Cadet Captain Winston Bolt from St. Louis, Missouri, the Brigade Adjutant, Cadet Captain Caitlin Anderson from Edmond, Oklahoma, the Brigade Intelligence Officer, Cadet Captain Megan Wentz from Tempe, Arizona, the Brigade Operations Officer, Cadet Captain Stephen Chong from Katy, Texas, the Brigade Logistics Officer, Cadet Captain Melissa Wells from Topsfield, Massachusetts, the Brigade Information Systems Officer, Cadet Captain Daniel Hallbaker from Pullman, Washington, and the Brigade Command Sergeant Major, Cadet Command Sergeant Major Nick Pappas from Alpine, New Jersey. Since the days of the American Revolution, flag bearers have been an important element in ceremonies. Leading today's formation and bearing the national color is the United States Corps of Cadets Color Guard, led by Cadet Color Sergeant Christopher Caballero from Baldwin Park, California. The 1st Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain William Goodwin from Mercer Island, Washington. The Regimental Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Casey Childers from Clearwater, Florida. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Emily Cosma from Pittston, Maine. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Frank Conroy from Cleveland, Ohio. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Kevin Fletcher from Manlius, New York. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Audrey Brown from Maryville, Tennessee. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Nicholas Rodriguez from Bakersfield, California. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Isaiah Hickman from San Antonio, Texas. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Rob Bickle from Dallas, Texas. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Bratton Benfield from Charleston, South Carolina. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Maris Moreno from Naples, Florida. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Diana Sang from South San Francisco, California. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Deja Davis from Richmond Hill, Georgia. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant William Bratton from Highland Village, Texas. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Seamus Bond from Wichita, Kansas. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Kyle Olson from Annapolis, Maryland. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Joshua Bruce from Savannah, Georgia. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Kevin Schul from Dover, Tennessee. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Samuel Thompson from Williamsburg, Virginia. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Kate Bruce from Toledo, Ohio. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Joseph Clack from Highwood, Illinois. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Thomas Cope from Bradenton, Florida. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Andrew Nkansa from Darien, Illinois. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Adam Tapia from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain Patrick Reese from Nokesville, Virginia. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Lindy Barrett from Calera, Oklahoma. The 2nd Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Aaron Pell from Chicago, Illinois. The Regimental Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Nathan Moran from Bridgewater, Virginia. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Roman Burns from Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Frank Shin from Arlington, Texas. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Sean Burrows from Bondurant, Iowa. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Alec Beebick from Seattle, Washington. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Tristan Long from Redmond, Washington. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant James McMurray from Dallas, Texas. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Kevin Carlin from Forest, Virginia. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Jessica Stokes from North Pole, Alaska. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Robert Hume from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Marco Zamoro from El Paso, Texas. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Patrick Sweeney from Delano, Minnesota. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Leonard Salcedo from Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain McCoy Bean from Voorhees, New Jersey. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Nick Bennett from Louisville, Kentucky. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Andrew Lawback from Calabasas, California. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant William Mayer from Medford, New Jersey. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Jeremy Hunt from Johns Creek, Georgia. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Matthew Nielsen from Springfield, Virginia. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Jeffrey Johnston from Stoughton, Massachusetts. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Jonathan Day from Chandler, Arizona. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Peter Fink from Mount Vernon, Indiana. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Patrick Ellison from Easton, Pennsylvania. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain David Evans from Sequoia, New York. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Zachary Taylor from Northville, Michigan. The 3rd Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Amy Saxton from Sunnyvale, California. The Regimental Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Louis Joseph from Youngstown, Ohio. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Tyler Corellis from Munster, Indiana. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Emma Dugas from Canterbury, Connecticut. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Stephanie Erskine from Floresville, Texas. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant John Morati from LaBelle, Florida. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Ryan Ledbeater from Redwood City, California. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant David Crossley from Plano, Texas. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Gregory Williams from Metairie, Louisiana. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant David Bennett from Modesto, California. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Sarah Williams from Twin Peaks, California. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Alex Lehman from Tucson, Arizona. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Alberto Squatrito from West Babylon, New York. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Hunter Norton from Pismo Beach, California. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Luke Scudder from Neenah, Wisconsin. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Sarah Hill from Ellicott City, Maryland. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Nathaniel Green from San Antonio, Texas. The First Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Patrick Supina from Amarillo, Texas. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Beatrice Martorell from La Ceiba, Honduras. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Frankisha Hawkins from Sulphur Springs, Texas. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Austin Brown from Midland, Texas. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Michael Finocchio from Winter Springs, Florida. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Michael Fletcher from Fairfax Station, Virginia. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Griffin Carroll from Raleigh, North Carolina. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain Ryan Longweir from Cincinnati, Ohio. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Ian Bortis from New Iberia, Louisiana. The 4th Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Natalia Drew from Newcastle, Delaware. The Regimental Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Sally Sitnick from Leavenworth, Kansas. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Amanda Harrison from Burke, Virginia. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Jacob Medeiros from Fall River, Massachusetts. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Kelsey Rebelez from Dallas, Texas. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Parker Callahan from Concord, New Hampshire. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Gene Fogg from Vacaville, California. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Tycurius Coleman from Prosperity, South Carolina. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Taylor Wilby from Atlanta, Georgia. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Jacob Cimarar from Columbus, Ohio. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Dylan Curtis from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Philip Linovit from Eminence, Kentucky. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Nick Satwicks from Newton, Massachusetts. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Kyle Jasevich from West Sand Lake, New York. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Alexandra Lykin from Falmouth, Maine. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Stephen Sattler from Casco, Michigan. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Greg Sacinti from East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Andrew Ford from Wichita, Kansas. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Elizabeth Moten from Castle Rock, Colorado. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Samantha Dormany from Upton, Kentucky. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Ian McWilliams from Concord, Massachusetts. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Anthony Burgess from Austin, Texas. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Aaron Proctor from Boise, Idaho. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Bradley O'Keefe from Bern, New York. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain Alexander Newson from Richmond, Virginia. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Shanice Alexander from El Paso, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, your United States Corps of Cadets. Ladies and gentlemen, standing before you are the cadets of the United States Military Academy. Every one of them has chosen to answer the call to duty. With their salute, they recognize and honor your show of support. These cadets today will lead America's sons and daughters tomorrow in the defense of our great nation. And now, Army fans, join the Corps as they cheer the Army team towards victory with the Rocket. The marches that are being played as the cadets exit the stadium are the official Army song, "The Army Goes Rolling Along." Lead the way, Hunger Games fanfare, Washington Post, and On Brave Old Army Team. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the United States Corps of Cadets. Go Army, beat Navy.
The Corps of Cadets marched on, and now they begin the march off. We are less than 2 hours from kickoff between Army and Navy, the 115th edition of sport's greatest rivalry. And joining us now, Randy is with me still, and our cadet, Sarah Brown. Thanks so much for being with us, Sarah. we could barely contain you a little bit over here. You had to miss being out there on the field.
A little bit. I'm going to be honest, though. It looks a little bit miserable being out there, but it's a good experience to be part of the march on. It shows, like, our combined efforts as a corps. So it's a little bit saddening to not be out there, but, you know, it's all right.
You had the cheer. If you didn't have the mic, you could actually do the cheer sitting here.
Oh, I would.
You can do it right now. Go for it.
The rocket?
Yeah.
We were talking about earlier?
There you go.
All right. You smay rah rah, you smay rah rah, hoorah hoorah, Army rah, team team team, hey!
See, now you feel better. I could tell you needed
I feel
to
better
do
now.
that.
I feel
You
a lot
needed
better.
to do it.
And you practiced the march on. This is sort of the culminating event of all the marching you do during the fall, right?
Definitely true, sir. We practiced for this for about a week. And I think you can tell that Army did a lot better at the march on than Navy did. I think you saw a little bit of wonky lines, curves in Navy, but I don't think you saw it out there with Army today. So
You're totally unbiased, right?
Oh yeah, totally unbiased.
Sarah, why the call to service? You could choose any college, you could choose to do anything you want. Why go to West Point and why serve your country?
Well, I decided to do the Army first because of my dad and my grandpa, and like everyone before me had gone to the military before me, so I really wanted to do some kind of service again. So I would like to do that and just give back to my country, honestly. It sounds like really cliche, but anyway. But thank you for this experience to be out here.
Not cliche at all. We want to thank you for being with us. We're glad we could give you a different perspective on the march on. And as we continue here from M&T Bank Stadium and the Army continues to march off at this point, a very special story. You are looking at Mike Viti, former Army football player. He's been marching across the country, 7,100 kilometers, all to remember the fallen. We'll have his story and hear from Mike next.
Sports Network and USAA salute America's veterans.
Army Day is our biggest night. We hung spirit banners. After the course done eating, we all stand up. We go out to the daily field out there and we burn a big boat in honor of beating the squids.
We get the top half of the class, the engineers, versus the bottom half of the class, the goats. It is an opportunity to kind of come out and get psyched up for Army Navy, kind of get everybody's spirit going, and just watch a football game.
Oh, this game is competitive. The girls get feisty and the guys get rough, so it's a good game to watch.
It's pretty cool to think about how far our team actually did travel with the game ball. Each runner, they'll go about 15 miles, give or take, and they can split that up however they want. We're all pretty excited, and I think it's really cool knowing that the game's about to happen and that Army's going to beat Navy.
Welcome back to M&T Bank Stadium. We are nearing the end of the USAA countdown to America's game, Army versus Navy. We've got about 2 hours, 1 hour, 58 minutes, 31 seconds and counting until kickoff. We've got coverage at the bottom of the hour, and be sure to tune over to CBS for that game, the 115th meeting between Army and Navy. The Patriot Games are 2 days of competition between the Army Cadets and the Navy Midshipmen. They began yesterday at Fort McHenry. The prize, a trophy, and much more importantly around here, bragging rights. The first event, the leadership reaction course. Army coming out on top, but Navy are actually finished with a better time. They got the win. The second event, the Zodiac Carry at Rash Field. The Cadets and Midshipmen competed to see which six-man team could carry a weighted Zodiac boat along the waterfront fastest, and Army would win that one. As we said, so much going on here, spirit and bragging rights. The Army-Navy game in its 115th meeting originated in 1890. Navy leads the series 58-49-7, but it is the 12 straight wins getting so much talk and so much buzz this year. Will it be a lucky 13 for Navy, or will it be a lucky 13 for the Army, and they will finally end the streak? The Corps of Cadets continues to march off the field at M&T Bank Stadium. The march on, of course, one of the greatest spectacles out here. And speaking of marching, you have to wonder what would compel a man to march 7,100 kilometers across the country. That means marching for 22 miles a day for 6 days a week. 8 months worth of walking. And for one man, Mike Viti, it was all about paying honor to the fallen, those who died in service to our country in the global war on terror. Here is more of Mike Viti's story.
What gets me up every day is the hike's not about me. Hopefully, when everything is said and done, that when the average American hears the word Gold Star family, they know what a Gold Star family is, and that their sacrifice doesn't just end when we end combat operations at the end of this year. Their sacrifice is forever. It takes one person to make change. If I feel so strongly about this, what could you do about it? What can one man do about it? And how are you going to make a difference? What drew me to West Point was 9/11 happened when I was in high school. And it really was the time in my life where the bell was rung for my generation, and I wanted to answer it. Being a leader when adversity hits, and those lessons for me were learned through Army football. All those lessons at West Point were preparing me for something on the horizon, and I didn't quite understand the lessons I learned until, 5 years later, 10 years later, and I think, in the decades to come, more lessons will be pulled from my time at the Academy. Right from the start, you're not bringing everybody home. And to overcome that is tough. You're over in Afghanistan, but you also have friends and guys you played football with and classmates. And I would hear that we lost a classmate or somebody I knew, a friend, and that was equally as hard, even not being with those men. I think you have to live there, breathe there, fight there, sacrifice there, experience hardships there for an entire year to really understand it.
I think that what happens so often is the community comes together. They do a wonderful job of helping with that burial or that death. But most places, you don't hear anything again, and the families are left grieving on their own.
When I started telling my immediate family and my inner circle of friends that I'm going to do this, everybody questioned me, to put it softly. But as I started laying it out, people came around, and I said, if they don't get it this week, next week, by the summer, by the fall, they'll get it by the end. What I had to give up was a personal life, social life, living with my wife. I had to walk away from a job and a career. I wanted to really, in my heart, know that I gave up everything on a personal and professional level and a physical level, and then on an emotional level, put myself out there to connect with their families.
I think he himself needed to find out, who am I after being in Afghanistan, seeing my friends die, knowing that there are families out there. I need to know more.
As I hike, I feel like it's a time lapse where I sometimes look up and I'm in Georgia. Other times I just close my eyes and I'm back in Arizona in 100-degree heat, or I just take a second, I reflect that I was in the Pacific Northwest like it was just yesterday. Hi, Mike Viti.
Nice.
Pleasure to meet you, man.
Thank you for all you're doing.
And he went up on the roof to kind of get the lay of the land, see what's going on, and a sniper shot him from another building. Nobody wants to die, but he was doing what he wanted to do.
Looking in our faces, it went beyond just the guy he was with in the field. It was that guy's mom, that guy's dad, that guy's sisters, wife, nieces, nephews.
When you put yourself out there and say, I'm going to honor each and every hero of this country and each and every one of those families, give them unwavering support, it's no longer about you, and it's what's great about it, because that's my guide, that's what pushes me, and to share the cause and a hike with those people is really important to me.
And Mike is literally sprinting to get to us. He's joining us here on set right now. The final mile or kilometer that he walked was actually in honor of his former teammate, Chase Pesnicki, who lost his life in the fight against the global war on terror. Mike, thank you. I know, racing in the final minute. What can you tell me or describe for all of us, what was it like, those final steps, and especially that last kilometer for you?
Extremely powerful. Honoring the legacies of 6,843 fallen service members, heavy lifting, but having your fellow brothers in arms, fellow former Army football players, and the families that share that moment made it all worth it.
And I know that you were writing down, as we saw in a piece that just aired, the names of each of those fallen men and women as you walked each kilometer. What's it like when you look at those flags and know what you were able to do?
We just completed the 14th flag and had Emily Prasnicki write her husband's name, our fallen teammate Chase Prasnicki's name. And 6,843 is a number, but now 6,843 has names, and they have a story. And each one of those Americans is a reason for our freedoms and our liberties, the peace and prosperity, and the safety that we have in this country.
And they lived on as you walked throughout this country, and that's what seemed like it was so important to you, instead of it just being about a plaque or a name, that you took time to be with the families throughout. You mentioned your former teammate. What was it like to spend that time with his family that last kilometer?
To spend time with Emily, Tyler, Lauren, Debbie, and David, it's a promise that we will pull the legacies of our brothers and sisters forward, not just on the fields of friendly strife, not just in combat, but through their families, and we're sure that their legacies are forever kept alive. And that's the message I left them with it. That promise goes on to eternity.
This week, as you know, you lived it, is so important to the midshipmen, to the cadets. What more meaning can you bring to it by what you have just accomplished?
That we're lifelong leaders to our country. Sure, we're going to commission as military leaders and military as officers and answer the bell for whatever missions our country needs us. But you transition out into the civilian world, you don't leave that military service in your rearview mirror, and you pull the legacies of your heroes forward.
I know that you don't talk about the sacrifice that you made by leaving a job and spending time away from family, but it was so much. And maybe this is more of a light note, but what are you going to do tomorrow?
So today I passed the baton to a Navy veteran, and he's going to swim the length of the Mississippi with the same mission and the same objective. And to me, today we crossed the finish line for a project, but we didn't cross the finish line for that mission, and we didn't cross the finish line for those families. We end the global war on terror in just several weeks, but it's a mantra, it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle that military service is who we are, what makes us great, and sacrifice is synonymous with freedom. So that sacrifice needs to continue to ensure that we protect that freedom, and that baton's now passed to a Navy veteran who's going to continue with that same mission.
It is an honor to meet you, and we appreciate you getting in here for us and sharing your story. What an incredible journey for you and for us all. Mike Viti, you can of course see more on his story online if you didn't get a chance to see it. It is the 115th Army-Navy game. About an hour and a half away from kickoff. We've got much more coming up live from Baltimore. Stick around.
Inside College Football Army-Navy March on CBS Sports Network is being brought to you by USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of current and former military members and their families.
More now from the Patriot games. The third event was a tug of war at the Inner Harbor's Pier 3. Army took it to go up 2-1. Pretty impressive stuff. The Fourier coach still has some athleticism, but I don't know if I like him in a tug of war. The last event on Friday was a pull-up challenge at the Inner Harbor Amphitheater. Army won that again to put them up 3-1 after Friday's competitions. All these events part of the official Army-Navy pep rally that's complete with bands, mascots, cheerleaders, and fans cheering on the competition. The final event later today, the cadets and the midshipmen. It's actually happening right now inside. They're competing in a stadium obstacle course. Coach, could Fourier, does he have enough lateral movement?
I think he may have a series left in him. I really do.
Short yardage goal line. I got you.
That is outstanding. And we continue to talk about there's so much more. I mean, once the game kicks off, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it's all this other stuff going on around the 115th version of the Army-Navy game as we wrap up this show. An outstanding work inside the stadium by Dana Jacobson and Randy Cross. Coach, I asked you this last year. I mean, there is nothing quite like the Army-Navy march-on, really.
It really isn't. As we saw them come right by us, we saw their eyes focus. Yeah. Christian and I were talking about it. It just gives you chills. And, some of the cadets were in our hotel last night, and you look at just their mannerism. Their manners are so good. They respect authority. There's some players I know that I've had before that I would love for them just to be around. Their attitude and the way they go about things, unbelievable.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you said it. It almost makes you want to run out and enlist, right? Because you watch them run by. But initial reaction, I know we're going to be splitting hairs here, Coach. But Army, when they marched on, they had the laser focus. Navy rolled up. They looked good, but I tell you what, formation-wise, Army has the edge right now.
I'm with you. I think you're right.
Are you saying there might be a carryover to what happens on the football field?
You heard it right here. Yes, they do. There is a small carryover. Army looked laser-focused. No one messing around. No one talking. The lines were perfect.
Navy was pretty confident, Brent. They were feeling pretty good. You're right. Army was focused.
What do we think, really quickly? We're still about an hour and a half away from game time, but are you still thinking Army on this day, Coach?
I'm pulling hard for Army. 12. They're tired of hearing that number 12, Army.
That's a lot to handle right now because Army, you said it, 12 times in a row they've lost. But if you talk to people around town, in the restaurants, in the bars, wherever you go, they talk about this game. They're not messing around. They want this one big time.
About an hour and a half ago, we came on the air. It was warmer then. Coach didn't need a jacket. It's colder now. He still doesn't need a jacket.
He's the toughest one on the set.
Our thanks to Dana Jacobson, Randy Cross inside. We're coming right back with Army-Navy Tailgate presented by USAA. Randy Cross will join us on the set with Houston, Christian, and myself. Stay tuned for that up next.